Welcome into the Georgia Vote bonus political roundtable. If you saw us on broadcast earlier this morning, this is a continuation of the conversation we have every Sunday morning, except sometimes when we're on Saturday, which is what happened this weekend, but as long as you're watching, it doesn't matter. Zach Merchant with you here, along with our panel this week, Deanna Harris, a Republican strategist, Alicia Searcy, a Democratic strategist, and Chris Joyner, politics editor at the AJC. On a busy week for all of us watching this always evolving world of Georgia politics with primary night on Tuesday. Now we're heading into some runoffs. Alicia, let's start with you. One race that's not going to a runoff is the Democratic Gubernatorial. A lot of people thought with such a crowded field, nobody would win outright on Tuesday night, but Mayor Bottoms, former Atlanta mayor, she won with about 56% of the vote. Were you surprised by that?
Not at all. In fact, I called it. Several days before the election, I knew it was going to happen. I was watching the polls since last October. My organization ran a poll, and we saw her numbers were really high. I was very impressed with her favorability among Democrats. And so I think folks are underestimating how attractive she is to voters. I think her superpower is authenticity. She connects well with people. And again, she's talking about issues that really matter to people. And so that resonated. And then, of course, you cannot ignore the role of Black women in the Democratic Party. And so all of those things together made her make history and win without a runoff.
Deanna, you're a Republican strategist. When you look at former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms waiting in the November general election for whoever emerges, Burt Jones or Rick Jackson, how do you think they're thinking through what a potential general election campaign for them, whoever's the nominee, would look like?
Well, I'm sure they'll focus on a lot of the negative things that did happen during her tenure as mayor. And that's something that they'll really bring forward into light and address it on, TV, right? We'll have plenty of money to do all types of ads and mailers. And I don't know how much that the Democrat National Party will bring into her race, but she will need their support because, either candidate on our primary side is able to self-fund, especially Rick Jackson, as we've already seen. And so they'll put a lot of money toward that.
Chris, you brought something up in the break that I think is worth all of us discussing as well, which is that President Donald Trump, he has endorsed in the governor's race, endorsing Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. He has not endorsed in this U.S. Senate race. Derek Dooley and Congressman Mike Collins, they go to a runoff in a race that has seen a lot of talk about the president in this Republican primary, but no endorsement yet. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it was a little tricky for the president, who's got a rocky relationship with the governor. And they've had a more peaceful period since he's returned to the White House. I think if he were to endorse someone other than Derek Dooley, it complicates that relationship a little bit. Now, is that what Donald Trump is thinking? I don't know. But that is a fact that it would put him and Governor Kemp on opposite sides in a race. He's the real X factor. If he decides that he wants to endorse Collins in this race, that's likely going to move the needle, particularly in a low turnout runoff.
Do you agree with that, Deanna? If the president did endorse, it could be decisive in this Republican runoff?
Possibly. It could help create a bigger turnout for whichever candidate that he does endorse. But I think that the president is probably just waiting, and then he will put a lot of energy behind the nominee. That way we can try to take the seat back. And I think that's his ultimate goal. I don't know that he cares if it's Dooley or Collins. He's more focused on just having that seat back in general so he can still have his control of the U.S. Senate.
And we know that the president likes to back a winner, and that is part of it, I think, he may wait to see who we've got.
Alicia, let's switch gears and talk about a race that got a lot of attention from Democrats. Two races, really. They were for a pair of seats on the Georgia Supreme Court held by incumbents Charlie Bethel and Sarah Warren. Miracle Rankin and Jen Jordan were the challengers. We always say this, we have to say it, because it is true. It's a technically nonpartisan race, but the Democratic Party threw a lot of money, a lot of support behind the two challengers there. Ultimately came up short. The incumbents will keep their seats, both of them, for another 6 years on the court. Was that money and time well spent by the Democratic Party when looking in hindsight at it?
Absolutely. This is the first time the Democratic Party has been engaged in a race like this, and Miracle came within 2 points of winning that seat. So absolutely, we will continue to spend that kind of money and invest those resources. I want to say something very quickly, though. We have to talk about how we got here. I don't think nonpartisan races should involve the parties. But when you have a legislature that voted for a law that put a nonpartisan race during a partisan primary election, that's going to create partisanship.
You're talking about the Metro Atlanta bill?
No, I'm talking about I think it was maybe 2011, years ago, and I may not have the right year, but it was a law that has been passed that puts this election on the primary ballot. And for whatever those intentions were, I think it's starting to backfire. The second thing is what's happening nationally. This Trump-appointed Supreme Court has made a lot of decisions that have been harmful to people who have fought for rights for decades, have been erased in the last 2 or 3 years. And so now you've politicized Supreme Courts. And I think that is what you saw in this particular election, where unfortunately we're going to see more parties involved in court races.
Deanna, I suspect as a Republican, you want to respond to that?
Well, we did have a bit of a scare because as we were looking at the early voting numbers, Democrats came out and they had, like 150,000 more votes for the primary election than Republicans did. So it was a very close call for us not to lose that incumbent seat that we had, and I believe one of those were appointed by our governor. And so, that was very safe for us, and I'm not sure where the Democrat nominees went wrong, because again, like you said, they did put a lot of money behind them, and but I think that could just also be the power of incumbency, and that sometimes works well for their behalf.
We're short on time here. Chris, last word to you. A broad, open-ended question. The X factor for these candidates in these races that are going to runoffs, what do you think it's going to be over the next 4-ish weeks?
Well, I think it's going to be whether or not they get beyond talking about the president and start talking about what they will do in office. And we have not heard a lot. I mean, this has been a very low information campaign, basically, on the issues. And that's strategic. President Trump is a big factor on both sides of the coin, Republicans and Democrats. And candidates have wanted to run on or against Donald Trump's record. Now, will we get past that and say what they're going to do for the people of Georgia?
And we're going to find out the answer to that question in just a few weeks now. Georgia politics are in overtime. The runoff election is June 16th. Thank you to our panel here. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time on another edition of the Georgia Vote.